Hi, this is Frank, founder and CEO of Costa Rica Matchmakers. Welcome to our YouTube channel. Today, I'm going to be talking about matchmaking in Costa Rica versus matchmaking in Russia and Ukraine. So some of the things that I'll talk about to start out are the obvious things. And the first thing I would note is the distance of travel. The nice thing about Costa Rica is it's one of the closest countries to the United States as far as on the international scale of matchmaking. So in other words, men from North America, the United States will travel all over the world. And sometimes when you fall in love online, you don't realize that when you're falling in love online, at some point you're going to go to this destination. So you have to really look at the distance in travel and the cost of travel. When you compare Costa Rica to pretty much any other destination, it's very reasonable to not only come here as far as time and travel. A typical trip from, so let's say Chicago would be approximately 5.5 to 6 hours. And then when you get to locations like Florida or even Los Angeles, you're looking at a 2 or 3 hour flight from those destinations to Costa Rica, San Jose, Central Valley area. Versus if you're in those locations and you're flying to Russia, you're looking at approximately a 12 to 14 hour flight. Additionally, you would be looking at a 10 to 12 hour flight if you were flying to Ukraine. The cost of flying to each of those locations is very expensive as well. Traditionally, when you fly to Costa Rica, you can expect your airfare from a major city in the United States to be approximately $400 to $500. So when we talk about the time and the cost of flying to Ukraine or Russia, we need to consider that not only the time is much greater, but the cost is much greater. When you look at the cost of a ticket currently to Ukraine and so Kiev and Moscow, let's say, you're looking at the $800 to approximately $1,200 range. Additionally, when you look at, you're going to go there, obviously meet with a woman or go on a tour, however you choose to get to know your significant other or the interest that you have, you're going to find out that hotels cost a lot of money. When you come to Costa Rica, the nice thing is you could stay in hotels in the Central Valley in the price range from very low end would be reasonable and clean, safe hotels, $50 or so. And when you're looking, I want to say at the higher end, of course, it could go up to $200, $300, but you certainly find nice hotels in the $100 a night price range. Versus when you look at cities like in the Eastern Europe, Kiev and Moscow, it could run into several $100s for the same quality of room per night. So that's a significant difference in cost, especially when you consider courtship doesn't necessarily work out on the first trip, and your relationship may take several trips back and forth in order to solidify a relationship or know whether or not it's working for you. So as those costs build up, you have to realize that maybe you should look at the front end before you decide which place you want to go. Additionally, keep in mind if you're an American traveling to Russia, currently you need to go through an additional visa application. Not only is this costly, but it can be very time-consuming and bureaucratic. Now let's talk about why we're traveling, guys, because really ultimately, if you're in love, where you're traveling to, if it's 20 hours away, if it's the woman of your dreams, it'll be worth it. However, let's look at where we're traveling and why we're traveling, because we're really traveling into different cultures. When you look and assess the Ukrainian or even the Russian culture versus the American culture, there's some very distinct differences. Now, I'm not saying that they're good or bad or inappropriate, but from personal experience, because I have been to Russia, I was back in Moscow and St. Petersburg back in the early 1990s, and it was a great vacation and I truly enjoyed it. However, the Russian people live a different way, and the Russian women have a different type of personality. They are very family driven. However, their husband really isn't necessarily their priority as much as maybe their children or their other extended family. There's high expectations of the man in the Ukraine in order to satisfy the needs of the woman. They live a very nice, comfortable lifestyle for their country.
Hello, I like money.
And they enjoy being there. So if you're asking them to relocate to the United States, they're going to have high expectations and possibly demands. One of the very important things to keep in mind as you look at that, not only the cost of travel to these locations during the courtship, but if you look at, say the courtship is successful, and now you're bringing them back to the United States. If you are choosing to bring them back to the United States, what is their cost of their expectations, where they want to live, how they're going to live, clothing them, medical, all those things. Because for the first year, the person that you're bringing back on a visa, K-1 visa, is not allowed to work. So you're going to actually burden those costs. And these are all things that I would encourage men to consider as they go through the application. On the other hand, Costa Rican women. Wow, what can I tell you about them? Costa Rican women, while they do have expectations, I would say their expectations are tempered with reason. Costa Rican women are very warm and friendly to American men, that's for sure. And there's a special effect, I would say, if you have light eyes, blue eyes, or possibly green eyes. Costa Rican women are very drawn to the color of your eyes. Now that's not to say you only need to have blue eyes in order to have a great romantic life in Costa Rica, but it's a card that helps you out. But Costa Rican women are generally curious and enamored with American men. When you compare them to the Costa Rican men that they're used to dating or associating with, they look at American man as somewhat of a prize or an opportunity to improve their situation. Now, this doesn't mean that the woman is only looking for you for finance, although my dad used to have a saying, there is no romance without finance, and it is very true. In any relationship you're in, whether you're dating, boyfriend, girlfriend, there's always not only an emotional and a physical cost, but there's always financial costs. That said, Costa Rican women have reasonable expectations. You know, I use this example that when I have come down here and have been in relationships that were somewhat taking a serious angle, when you ask people how they feel about certain things, whether, you know, animals or kids are in their future, or where they want to live, you know, I always throw out this scenario where I like to live in Costa Rica for some of the year, and I like to spend time back in the United States, where I'm from, in Chicago. The comment or the question that I ask the women is, how do you feel if I were to travel back to the United States and spend the summer months, which back in the States is, let's just say, May through September, back home in the States with my kids, my friends, my family? Sure, you're more than welcome to join me for part of the trip, but maybe not stay with me for all the trip. I was surprised, and I am continually surprised, at how Costa Rican women are warm and receptive to this concept. So the fact that they are not so jealous or insecure or controlling, certainly from conversations, and again, this is conversations that I've had with more than a few women, really just to kind of gauge to see how they receive that concept, and surprisingly it's very well received. I don't think it would go over very well in Russia. So the climate in Costa Rica versus the climate in Russia and Ukraine. Costa Rica is basically a warm weather country. I've been down here since 1991, and I've also been living here full time for the last couple years. And I would say the typical temperature in Costa Rica for a daytime high is approximately 80 degrees. The nighttime low will go down to 60, 62, 64 in the Central Valley. That's standard 365 days a year. The times of the year is really rainy season or dry season. That's really the only difference, not the temperature. However, Russia is a cold country.
Peter, you left the flap open.
Like 1,000 degrees in here, Lois.
Close the tent now. It's freezing.
Headline, Woman Cold.
It gets cold quick. By September, they're in need of heat, and it pretty much lasts all the way through the end of May. Same thing with Ukraine. Very cold country. They do experience the spring and summer and the fall, but those seasons are shortened. What does that mean? Your time to travel, it really becomes limited. So not only is it more expensive and greater length of time, your opportunity to travel becomes shorter. And also when an opportunity becomes shorter to travel, supply and demand comes into play and the cost of travel generally escalates. So you want to consider that fact as well. So we certainly can't talk about a comparison between Costa Rica, Russia, and Ukraine without talking about political, I laugh when I say it because it is funny, political contrast and stability. So Russia, what can we say about Russia? Led by Vladimir, but I better be careful what I say, otherwise I could wind up with a poison dart in my neck. Russia is controlled basically by a dictator.
Yes, that's what we wanted you to think.
And it's a very hostile political climate.
You didn't see anything.
You never know what's going to happen to you. I'm sure people that travel to Russia can have some great experiences, but is there an undertow that could potentially cause you problems? Russia is not a friendly country to most Americans. Additionally, I would say the climate in Ukraine is troubling at best on the Eastern Front. Currently, as we make this video, Russia is assembling 40,000 troops, I believe I read, at the eastern border for potential activity, whether it be a bluff or actual further incursion into Ukraine is political speculation, but it doesn't create a stable situation, not only for the people that are living there, but for the people that are vacationing or visiting there or going there for potential romance. Keep in mind when you're going into these situations for looking for a serious partner in romance, you may be required to go back to those countries to visit family for events, whether they be marriages or births or passing close family members. So again, the cost comes into play and the political stability and climate comes into play. The contrast that I would offer to that is Costa Rica. Costa Rica has not had an army since 1948. Costa Rica is basically known as a very safe country to visit and travel in. I'm not going to say that there's no crime in Costa Rica is actually a perfect country, because it's not. However, I will say, coming from the United States, that most crime in Costa Rica is concentrated amongst people that are concentrated, for lack of words, in bad behavior, so criminal activity, drugs, whatever. When you read the paper, those are the people that are becoming victims to violence. If you're just here enjoying your life, if you go to the beach and leave your cell phone on a seat and you leave your window down, yeah, your cell phone probably won't be around.
I think I'm about to steal!
That is crime. However, armed robberies, strong armed robberies are very infrequent down here in Costa Rica, especially when you compare it back to my home country, the United States. Additionally, in Costa Rica, you have a democratically elected government. So they elect the president every 4 years in Costa Rica, and the president can only be elected to 2 terms, and then a new person comes in. So unlike Russia, or while you do have democracy in Ukraine, it's certainly influenced by their neighbor, which is Russia. So these are things to consider. Costa Rica prides itself as being the Switzerland of Central America. So again, when it comes to political stability and safety in the country, I would definitely give Costa Rica an advantage there. So guys, thanks for tuning in and watching this video. I hope some of this information you found helpful and will guide you to making a good choice when it comes to matchmaking. Thank you for watching this video. I'm Frank with Costa Rican Matchmakers. If you like the video, please hit the like button, subscribe, and the notification bell. You could also always go to our website, www.CostaRicanMatchmakers.com, and you'll find a link below for those things. Thanks for watching and have a good day.